Первая сессия – это вот мы рассмотрим опыт западных аналитических центров, о том, какие инструменты анализа сейчас в тренде среди аналитических центров. И об этом нам расскажет госпожа Любица Поллакова. Она является заместителем директора программы «Россия и Евразия» в аналитическом центре Chatham House. Госпожа Поллакова, пожалуйста, вам слово.
Dear Lubica, I think you can start. Thank you very much for joining us today. And the floor is yours. You can briefly introduce yourself as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lubica Polakova, and as Emmerich mentioned, I'm with the Russia and Eurasia team at Chatham House. So first of all, thank you very much to Jamilia and to Albachon for the invitation, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you. And I also enjoyed the presentation and the game very much, and reminded me of my visit to Tajikistan a few years ago now. I would have known the answer to the Dushanbe question as well, because I was there to study Farsi a long time ago. Well, first of all, I was wondering, because you now all know who I am, but I don't know you, and it's not such a big group. So I was wondering if we could go quickly around the room, and if you could just tell me who you are and what your background is. Because I know you're all sort of up-and-coming analysts from Central Asia, but if you could maybe just tell me your name and your background, where you're coming from, what organization. Thank you.
Shall I start?
Давайте начнем с вас, Молдир.
Hello, my name is Moldir. You can call me Mona if it's hard for you to pronounce. I'm from Kazakhstan, and I got my bachelor's in mathematics, a master's in educational leadership at the Nazarbayev University. And currently I'm a PhD student in education and psychology in Budapest, Hungary. So I do research in female leadership, social emotional learning of school kids. And I came here because I need to implement the analytics and like to present it in the terms of policy briefs, so people would not read the research papers, but it would be comprehensible for the whole audience. So that's about me. Thank you.
Так, кто еще желает
I can continue, Mulder. Sorry, Ulukbek, if you want, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ulukbek. I'm from Uzbekistan. I think my voice is enough for listen. My major is international relations and world policy. I studied this major at the University of World Economy and Development in Tashkent. Nice to meet you once again.
Давайте мы будем тогда, как в прошлые разы, кого-то после себя, кого-то номинировать, кто будет следующий.
I can continue. So hi, my name is Eldar. I am from Uzbekistan as well, and I am a journalist. My major is public relations, and right now my field of research is linguistics, language conflicts in Central Asia. I am an editor of Dario.uz news site, and I am a junior researcher at Academy of Science of Uzbekistan. That's all.
Так, кто-нибудь дальше? Пожалуйста, дальше кого-нибудь номинируйте от себя.
Можно? Быстро, просто я спешу очень сильно. Okay, hi, my name is Dastan. I'm from Kazakhstan. I'm a jazz journalist. I'm writing about gender problems and society problems in Kazakhstan. I'm writing about human of speech and human rights in Kazakhstan.
Не забываем номинировать.
Okay, I can continue. My name is Elena. I'm from Uzbekistan, Tashkent, and I'm currently research master student in Belgium. My background is I had been working in government structures, and my research interests and professional interests as well are institutional transformations and social culture foundation as basis for and its impact on reforms in Uzbekistan. Thank you very much. And I nominate Jamila Nurjanova.
Thank you, Elena. Hi, my name is Jamila. I'm from Uzbekistan, and now I'm doing my research work in University of World Economy and Diplomacy. My theme is international law and fight against corruption. Also, I'm working for UNICEF now. Thank you. And next one, Guljahan.
Thank you. Hi, everyone, one more time. My name is Guljahan and I'm from Tajikistan. And my professional life is closely related to communication, advocacy, and journalism. And now I'm working on the issues of women rights, gender equality, and LGBT in our country. And I'm working closely with UN agencies. Okay, thank you very much. And I'm nominating Akmal.
Так, Акмаль, вас не слышно. Чуть-чуть погромче.
Нормально? Нормально слышно?
Слышно, но очень тихо. Ну, давайте.
So my name is Akmal Abujabor. I'm a specialist consultant in the Global Advisors LLC in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. And before that, I was the head of the project financing and construction works department of the Use Our Future Fund. And my field of interest is making the policy of the youth entrepreneurship and solving the social economic problems for making the well-developed and very good use in our country and in Central Asia. Thank you. So maybe Ermek Baysal says who can.
Хорошо, давайте тогда уже сделаем так. Кто желает, пускай тот себя представляет.
May I? Hi, again, my name is Nigina Khanuralova. I'm from Uzbekistan. Currently, I'm doing my second master's in human rights and democratization and at Center for European Studies. My first major was in politics and security, currently teaching at Webster University in Tashkent. I teach political philosophy, introduction to international studies, and global social problems. I also majored in philology and language teaching, but it's bachelor's degree. Currently doing a small research for my master's thesis on Xinjiang issue and the Central Asian reaction to the problem. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kunduz. I've graduated from Kyrgyz Russian Slavic University at UNESCO chair for studying world culture and religions. And I'm currently I have been working at the research and consulting agency Mbektar as an analyst at the sociological research department, and I'm writing about the conflict-sensitive issues, including conflict transformation, preventing violent extremism, peace building, etc. Thank you.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Nader. Sorry. I'm working in search for common ground peace building organization, and under this school, I'm writing about the border issue between the Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. So thank you. The next one is Tansolo.
Тансулу, вас плохо слышно. Так, к сожалению, вас не слышно, да, какой-то звук. Попробуйте включить микрофон. У вас есть какие-нибудь наушники? Угу. Ну, давайте, пока Тансулу решает технические моменты, кто-нибудь еще желает, например, Акмарал, давайте.
Hello, everyone. My name is Akmaral, and I represent Kazakhstan. I'm a graduate of Lund University in Sweden. I studied international development, and I majored in economic history. Currently, I am consulting international organizations here in Almaty, such as World Bank, UN, and such, on the questions of local budgets, public policy, social development, socially vulnerable groups, Kazakhstan, and Eurasian Economic Union, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Navruz Karimov. I just graduated from the Russian Tajik-Slavonic University. My field is international journalism. So right now I'm doing my master's degree, and I'm usually writing about business and economics, and I want to go deeper in this field. Thank you.
Так, кто-нибудь еще желает?
Yeah, пожалуй. Hey everybody, my name is Sergey Marinin. I'm from Kazakhstan, but currently based in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, and working for the UAC Academy in Bishkek. I would call myself a policy analysis program veteran because I've been at a number of programs devoted to policy analysis at the Central Asia program at GW University and Soros Foundation Kazakhstan, Public Policy Initiative. So yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you. The next in line is Daniel Kusinov.
Hi everyone, I'm Daniel Kusinov, political scientist from Kazakhstan. I'm working as a project manager for Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, and also I'm a consultant for University of Central Asia. Who is next?
Hello everyone.
Да, Гульбара, можете продолжать, мы вас слушаем.
Hello, let me introduce myself. My name is Gulbara Umorova. I'm from Kyrgyzstan. I graduated Academy of Management under the President. I have a master's degree in public and local administration. I'm working at the Mountain Society Research Institute as a field researcher and knowledge management platform assistant. I'm writing about natural resource and conflict issues with a particular focus on water resource. Nice to meet you. Next, Tansulu.
Тансулу, может быть, у вас уже решилась проблема техническая? Желаете рассказать о себе?
Меня слышно? Здравствуйте. Слышно,
Так. Да, слышно. Супер.
Hello once again. My name is Tansulu. I'm from Kyrgyzstan. I'm recent graduate of American University in Central Asia. My major was in international and comparative politics. This is my first bachelor degree, but right now I'm searching for my field of avocation. What I can say about me, I'm active volunteer and civil activist. Thank you.
Кто дальше?
Hi everyone, my name is Manbekova. I'm from Kyrgyzstan. I graduated from Williams College with an MA in policy economics last year, and at the moment, I lead economic column on economics during COVID-19 in Central Asian countries, and also I reviewed several reports of international organizations on different topics, starting from migration, women in entrepreneurship, and others. At the moment, I am planning to write about debt, public debt in Kyrgyzstan for Cabar.asia. Thank you.
Может быть, Фарида следующая? Фарида, по-моему, вы хотели тоже.
Да, спасибо. Hello, everyone. Sorry, I have joined a little bit late. I had some reasons. By the way, I wish all of you good health, especially nowadays. I have graduated from Osh State University, and currently I'm working as a project coordinator, Institute for Sustainable Development Strategy Public Foundation. The main aim of this organization is to promote bicultural diversity in our country and strengthen local communities. In the frame of this school, I'm writing about civil society and how NGOs coped with COVID-19. Thank you.
Коллеги, у вас у всех отличное знание английского. Если кто-то желает рассказать о себе на русском, пожалуйста, не стесняйтесь, можете на русском.
Hello. My name is Gulnoza. I'm from Uzbekistan. I am project manager of GBV project in Octet, and the reason I joined this school is I want to engage more professionally into the academic field. And right now I have masters in politics and security, and I'm planning to apply for PhD. Thank you.
I can go on, I think. Hi, my name is Gula. I'm from Kyrgyzstan. I'm currently pursuing my MA at Central European University in International Relations, and also I'm interning at Freedom House. I would like to, thank you, Lubisa, for joining us. You're very welcome in Kyrgyzstan.
Супер. Кто-нибудь еще остался? По-моему, Расул, да?
Okay, so let me finish it. Hello to everyone. My name is Rasul. I'm from Kazakhstan. I have master's degree and bachelor degree in Oriental Studies, Japanese Studies, and I also currently working as a teacher at the university, teaching Korean and Japanese related subjects. My research interest is Korea, Japan, and China, and Central Asia. That's all. Thank you.
По-моему, у нас осталось всего пара человек. Адинай, и еще кто-то.
Я из Таджикистана.
Так, пожалуйста.
Я юрист неправительственной организации Офис гражданских свобод. Я консультирую общественные организации в Таджикистане. Также учусь на магистратуре, изучаю международное право. Я пишу свою первую аналитическую статью на тему насилия в семье и вопросы безнаказанности. И также интересуюсь такими правовыми проблемами работников, неформальных работников в неформальном секторе и адвокации. Спасибо.
Adinai, I think I have the same field, but my name is Agirim. Currently writing about the Kazakhstani context of child protection that includes also domestic violence and violence against of the minority children. I have just completed my PhD at Sussex University in the UK in Brighton, and I'm doing research for Nazarbayev University on preschool inclusive education. I also do teaching for Sussex University for foundation year. Also do consulting for UNICEF in UN organization and NGO here in the realm of the social work, children protection, domestic violence, and so on. Nice to meet you, Lubika, and you're also welcome to Kazakhstan.
Я думаю, мы познакомились с большей частью наших участников сегодняшней сессии. Dear Luisa, floor is yours, please.
Great, thank you very much. That was very useful for me. And I see lots of interesting backgrounds, a mix of international relations and development. So I hope what I'm going to say is going to be useful to you. And please feel free to ask questions at any point. So Jamilia said you'd like to hear about Chatham House, how it was formed, how it works, maybe how we, how we influence decisions, if and when we can. And she also said you might be interested in some pointers in how to maybe get into writing or working for a think tank. So I'll touch on all those areas, and I'll do my best to do that equally, and then we can talk more about whichever part interests you. So I'll just kick off. So in terms of history, Chatham House was formed after the First World War from an idea presented at the Paris Peace Conference by Lionel Curtis. And the general idea was that there should be an institution where the interested parties could talk out their differences instead of fighting. And this led directly to the creation of Chatham House in London and to the Council of Foreign Relations in New York. So those are our cousins, if you like. And this year we celebrated our centenary, and that has led to some reflection on how things have gone and how the think tank sector has developed. But I think the general idea remains the same. Chatham House aims to be a place where people can talk, where they could talk with all the interested parties, and they could talk in confidence. If you look at our mission statement, it says that we work towards a sustainably secure, prosperous, and just world. And we aim to do that through dialogue and debate and research. In terms of size and structure, Chatham House, I think, is it is the biggest think tank in Europe. I think among the biggest outside the United States. There are currently 200 employees, and about half of those work directly in research or in research teams, such as myself. I mean, I'm not a researcher, but I work for a research team that looks at the Central Asia, the Eastern Partnership states, and Russia. And Chatham House is divided into several research areas and research teams. So I've already mentioned mine. There are also other area studies teams. We have the Africa team, the Americas team, the Asia Pacific team, and the Europe team. And then we have thematic areas: global economy and finance, international security, energy, environment and resources, and international law. And those together produce, a huge pile of output. So we do, the Institute as a whole does hundreds of events per year, publishes, I think, several dozen papers, I would say, and hundreds of expert comments, which are sort of short op-eds, opinion pieces on current issues. So maybe they have a shorter shelf life, but they comment basically on what's going on right now. In terms of the funding, which is important because without funding you can't run an institution, as I'm sure all of you know, based on what you told me about your background. Chatham House doesn't rely on a single source of funding, and it also doesn't have an endowment. So a big part of the job of everyone who works there is fundraising, and we fundraise from a variety of sources, and that in turn helps secure our independence. So there's a breakdown available on our website on how exactly the sources were split in the last financial year, but it's a mix of corporate funding through memberships and through, for example, conference funding, foundations funding which is project based, and government funding. That's not just the UK government. That's other governments as well, and that is also project based. So there's no sort of core funding or guaranteed income from any government, which on the one hand it means fundraising is a continuing challenge. On the other hand, as I said, it means that we're not dependent on anyone or any single source of funding, and therefore not restricted on what we say. Anyway, of independence. I think often what I see in the media is people making statements about, oh, Chatham House says, or Chatham House thinks, and that is not actually, that's not accurate, because one of the things, this is actually not, one of the things we're not allowed to say is that, that Chatham House says or thinks something, because it's not true. It's always the individual researcher's opinion. There is no such thing as a Chatham House opinion. This is underpinned in the Royal Charter, which we hold as of I think 1926, and it just means that every opinion belongs to an individual. So it's always, if you hear something about what Chatham House says, it's always what the individual Chatham House researcher said. In terms of our activities, I already mentioned that there are lots of them, but they all revolve around research and convening, and those are two, mutually reinforcing things. We do, a lot of our events are informed by our research, and a lot of our research is informed by the conversations that we organize and that we hold at the Institute. And these range from, big public things, all online these days, to smaller, private, behind closed doors discussions. And I'm sure and you've experienced in the past 6 months, like everyone, those small private discussions are now much more difficult to achieve, and impossible to hold as long as the ban on meetings is in place. But those are also a very important part in our work, and this is partly actually what we're best known for. I mean, even people who haven't heard about the Institute have often heard about the Chatham House Rule, which was created in 1927, and that's actually the most visited page on our website, is the one that describes the Chatham House Rule, because that's what people Google. And the rule was created precisely to enable open conversation and to enable people to share information. And its spirit, I mean, the letter has changed as technology evolved, etc., but the spirit is that you can use whatever you hear in the room or the meeting, but you cannot attribute it. So whoever shares the information is protected. And the rule has been widely adopted, and it's what enables the conversation. And of course, the rule is not legally enforceable or anything like that, but so it depends on who you have in the room and if you trust them. But if the rule is applied, then it helps generate open conversation. And this is, I've worked at the Institute for 9 years now in various roles, and this is what has kept me there, the kind of the continuing cycle of really, really interesting conversations with really, really interesting people from a variety of sectors. And that's a thing, that's the main advantage of think tanks, that they can bring together experts and policy actors from a variety of sectors. So it's not just academia, it's not just the government world, it's everybody. It's academics, it's policy people, it's journalists, it's NGOs, it's the business sector, everyone brought together to discuss policy issues. And that's where, you know, that's how the conversation is enriched and moved forward. And that's what I've always liked about my job, to kind of to be there and be part of those conversations. That's been really fascinating. What was I going to say? And this kind of this leads me to, you know, how do you exert influence as a policy institute, or as someone who works at a policy institute? There is no direct formula, or no kind of guaranteed way of doing it, or you know, no one has come up with a 100% foolproof way. And it's also very difficult to prove. And it's, you know, I don't think I've seen any, you know, government official or, you know, business sector person say, oh, you know, Chatham House has said that this is a good idea, so this is what we're adopting, because yeah, of course we do. So that's not how it happens. And obviously people don't like to, you know, they don't like to reveal their thought process. They don't like to admit pressure. So it's always very difficult to trace. But in general, what we have been trying to do is you know, provide quality research, data-driven, you know, proof-driven research to back our arguments and policy advice. That's one thing. But also, and this comes back to the conversation part, to keep everyone involved in the research process, and really to talk to people, to talk to every sector that is concerned, and talk to them openly, in confidence if necessary, and just bring their view in, make sure they're part of the conversation, because if they're part of the conversation, if they're part of your research process, then they're more likely to listen to what you come up with. That's just the kind of the general principle. And of course, our think tank, just like other think tanks, is putting a lot of attention to making sure then that what we produce, so you know, the advice we come up with is getting to the people it needs to get to, and that there are many tools or many ways of doing it. I mean, obviously one can utilize one's personal network. You can also try and publish in an outlet that you know is relevant to a particular sector, but also, you know, in a more kind of open way, you can engage with media and try and kind of get your research results more into the public conversation. So that's through media, through through outputs friendly to a general audience, so you know, a video explainer, through doing a public event, you know, maybe doing more outreach, for example, with schools where relevant. So it's a matter of, you know, getting and pushing your advice and your research results through private channels or personal channels, if you like, and also reinforcing that through having a say in the public discussion. So if you kind of establish a presence in the public discussion, that can help reinforce the private channels, and vice versa. So it's always a lot of legwork, but that's what people have been trying to do, and that's, you know, that's what has been, you know, if and when we were successful, it has been through a combination of that effort. So it's not the case that, you know, Chatham House or anything tank just puts a paper out and the paper kind of, you know, stands up and goes into the world, and, you know, everyone reads it. So there's a lot of effort that goes into building trust and building those relationships with your audiences, either broader ones or private ones. So that's just how it has worked so far. And as an example, for example, we I don't know how familiar you are with our work, but we have a very active Ukraine forum, and that's led by my colleague Risia Lucevic, and she her main focus is to kind of produce research and policy advice on Ukraine that focuses on Ukraine in and of itself. So not through the prism of its relations with Russia, but really look at the internal policy issues, how the reforms are going, what are the challenges, and of course the war in the Donbass comes into that, but our focus is very much on how it affects the internal dynamics in the country. And she managed to establish a really good track record of research published on various aspects of Ukrainian politics and development. And through that, she has been gradually called in to consult, for example, the EU Advisory Group on Ukraine and others who are active in trying to put together policy or aid for Ukraine. So it takes time and it takes effort, but gradually building the trust is what pays off. This then leads me to the tips and tricks section, and of course, based on what I heard about your professional background and your plans for the future, you will be heading in different directions. Some of you want to be researchers and want to publish. Some of you work in the NGO sector, and you may be more interested in sort of the influencing route and don't necessarily want to have public outputs. But for those of you who maybe want to be more involved in the think tank sector in the future, and want to kind of establish connections, again, it takes time and it takes a bit of strategic planning. But the main things I would say is you need to be visible, and you need to make sure that you try and connect with people. So in terms of visibility, make sure you have a niche of where what is it that you bring to the table, to the what is your specific expertise. It may be a combination of area expertise and thematic expertise, or a particular thematic angle that you bring, and then make sure that you have you have output written on that. And in this day and age, this is a little bit easier because yes, you may publish in academic journals or in policy journals, but you can also publish just on your own platform, and as long as that is visible, people can find it. And so you make sure you have something to show for your for your expertise. And then another thing, there are lots and lots of events happening online right now in the past 6 months especially. So I think you can use that to your advantage and really connect and try and find out what's going on. Try and find out if you can join the event, ask questions and be active and be visible, and gradually build relationships that way. Try to, what I always found very useful is to try and kind of really explore what the discussions are around the world. So not just in my case, we're based in the UK, so not just those that are run by organizations in the UK, but really try and tune into different things and see where the conversation is, because I always find it very helpful in informing our plans and our sort of our organizational kind of priorities. And it's also always very helpful, I think, professionally for you to kind of to see, they're all talking about this, but they're completely forgetting this perspective, which I can provide. So it will really help you plan a bit more professionally. And yeah, I can't emphasize enough how good it is to ask questions, because that's what makes you visible, and that's what puts you in people's mind. And one of my former colleagues actually had a policy. This is a bit extreme, but she did tell me that she never goes to an event if she doesn't have a question to ask. So that's worth thinking about, I think. And I think there was also one area I want to cover about how we do research. So in our team, we are an area studies team, so we rely very much on the kind of, data collection and detailed interviews route. And of course, colleagues in other teams, especially energy, environment, resources, that have to, who have to deal with the larger amounts of data, they use things like Stata and various other software, but that's just mostly due to the volume of data. But I find in our field, in our sort of our group, we tend to use mostly, to rely on, data collection interviews, and that is usually more informative. I mean, of course, if you're an economist, then again, you deal much more with the technical tools. But in our team, we tend to use, as I said, we tend to focus on in-depth interviews and to kind of back up by data. In terms of how we plan our research output, that's always a kind of a negotiation between what the researchers think the priorities should be. This is an issue that is coming up and we should really pay more attention to it. And then what we can get funded, because we always have to fundraise for every kind of project work we want to undertake. We can do a little bit of work by way of exploration. So it's kind of to try and draw attention to it and then generate more, generate a drive that would then help us kind of put something larger on and really do detailed field work and really go into depth. But it's not always possible. So it's always a balancing act. On the other hand, if there's something that really is a huge priority and really think should be done, then we do it. But then we always have to balance it in terms of what are then the other things we want to be doing. So that's just the general kind of negotiation that goes on every day or every year. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. But as I said, I'm very happy to answer any questions. I see that someone asked, Gulnaz asked, whether we use interviews semi-structured or structured. How do you analyze data? So, as I said, I'm not a researcher, but they use a mix of both, and it kind of depends. What is it that you're trying to find out? So, for example, to cite two examples, we recently published analysis on Azerbaijan's foreign policy priorities, and similarly another piece of work on societal resilience in Ukraine, Moldova, and Belarus. So, when talking about Azerbaijan's foreign policy, the researcher who was leading this and who was talking to various people, he liked semi-structured interviews because you kind of never know where it leads. You give people a starting point and then you let them talk and force them to maybe go somewhere, or let them kind of walk you to areas maybe you wouldn't have considered. Whereas with the resilience paper, the researchers had a very structured framework of what is it they were trying to measure and establish. So they were looking at resilience and kind of risks in very specific areas. One was the media, corruption, political elites, the Orthodox Church. There were a couple of other areas, and they asked everyone they talked to for a specific assessment of each of those areas. And they asked them, why are you? Because they were doing them on a scale from 1 to 5, and they said, okay, why did you assign this score? So it kind of depends on what you're trying to achieve. And again, from what I know about my colleagues' work, they tend to focus on, they don't do hundreds and hundreds of interviews. They try to really prioritize and cover all the bases, but they do maybe a smaller number of really in-depth interviews. So it's not in our team. For our work, I haven't seen them use things like NVivo, which I know is It can be really useful for huge volumes if you're dealing with huge volumes and you do discourse analysis, but we don't usually deal with like such massive corpuses of information. I hope that helps. Okay, I'll shut up now and please feel free to ask whatever you're interested in.
Thank you very much. It was very helpful.
Thank you very much, dear Luisa. Here's the question from Lupek.
Okay, so is there any work on transport policy corridors in Central Asia? Okay, we do cover Central Asia, and the two researchers who mainly focus on it are Annette Bohr and Kate Mallinson, and we have tried to kind of come up with something we could contribute to the discussion on One Belt One Road and policy transport and corridors. And we're trying to kind of come up with a way that would contribute something, because a lot of other think tanks have done some mapping of, of what's going on and what's going, what is planned, where are the hubs, etc., etc. And what we're trying to work on at the moment is to try and look at ways maybe how the policy on the ground is impacted. So maybe a more local, the local impact, how it's influencing relations with individual countries, how is it changing, for example, the recipient countries' foreign policies, etc., etc. But we're trying to find a way that we actually bring something new. So there are discussions going on, but they're still mostly internal. I know one recent project that colleagues in the Asia Pacific team have worked on was they were looking at water issues, and they were looking at Tajikistan and I think India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, if memory serves. And so there has been some work done on that.
So thank you. And also I have a couple of questions. Talking about the niche, about the sphere for the young analysts, since we have the School of Young Analysts, I'd like to ask your suggestion or to know your opinion. Is it better for a young analyst to be highly specialized in one sphere, one niche, or to be an analyst who has let's say a set of tools, instruments, and who can research any other sphere? So my question is basically, is it better to be highly specialized in one sphere or to be a universal specialist? And what is better to work in analytical think tank like yours?
Sure. So first of all, I don't believe in universal specialists, either universal or a specialist. But I would say definitely have something that you're a specialist on, that you have in-depth knowledge of, and that's going to be your main value added. If you're trying to market yourself, that is your niche, and that's what you have. You can produce very nuanced arguments about, back them with data. Really, you know the thing inside out, and that can inform your perspective on broader issues. And that's the key skill to have. For example, what does your knowledge about a very particular thing tell you about the wider issues? So, don't feel that you have to know everything about everything. Just be honest about what is it that your niche is, and how, that can totally inform your opinions about other things. It's just that be clear about what it is, where it is that you're coming from in terms of expertise. And that's going to be a lot more valuable than writing about everything and anything.
Thank you very much. So we have another question from Jamila.
Do we analyze public opinion? No, we're not a public opinion institute. Obviously, we look at public opinion polls that such institutes produce. What we sometimes have done, and this is in particular, I think, the Europe program, they have teamed up with a public opinion poll organization. I think they teamed up with YouGov. And then, so they commissioned a poll on a set of questions, and then based on what has come out in that poll, they then organize some events and they produce some research. But public opinion polls is something we consult rather than run, usually.
I have one more. Okay, please go ahead.
Earlier this week, we discussed a lot about authors' its own voice and also strict standards of journals and think tanks. So I was wondering, in case of Chatham House, do you have these strict standards for authors, or you give some space for them and you don't really, you just end up editing, but you don't make similar, style of writing?
That's an excellent question. Thank you. So first of all, in terms of standards, we have quality, sort of production standards, if you like. So for every written output, there is a review. So for a short expert comment, that's usually just someone else in the team looks at it and says, "Oh, you missed this out," or "This is not entirely clear to me," or "I disagree. Let's talk." But for every research paper, there are at least 2 external double-blind peer reviews, and there's also an internal review. So that's the kind of the content side, if you like, the research review. And then there's also a very strict editing process. So any research paper you see on our site has had 2 or 3 rounds of editing by a very, very detailed oriented editor. And that's also, that's to ensure clarity and consistency and accessibility, because we have found that the level of how easy the thing is to understand is directly proportional to how many people read it. So it's in our interest to really make the style accessible. So when you ask about the author's style, if someone is writing in a very academic way or uses a lot of jargon, then that person will get edited a lot to kind of simplify, not to dumb down, but to really make the language accessible, not to simplify the argument, it just to make it clear to as many people as possible. We also have a house style whereby, I don't know, we say, what was a good example? So, there's a standard of how you say, how you refer to Karabakh, for example. There's a standard of how you refer to, ISIS. So there are some certain things that are agreed in terms of the house style, and those are used. And but there's we're not trying to force everyone to write in the in the same way. Like, I think if you look at the papers, you can still see different styles of how the authors write. It's just we try to take them all to the same level in terms of clarity and accessibility.
So I have also 2 short questions. First of all, so as far as I understood, Chatham House works with different experts in different spheres, and you serve like a bridge between, let's say, the people who take decisions, or the companies, the private companies, and the people from academia, the experts. So how do you find these experts? For instance, there is a request from let's say from the government to make a research in one sphere, and let's say in the economy or in any other sphere, and could you tell us about the process? When do you find the let's say the good specialist in economy or in any other sphere, about the process?
Sure. So, I mean, first of all, there is a slight difference between research and convening. So if we run a research project on something, usually, I mean, the initiative usually comes from us, because we need to make sure, you know, it has to be something that actually the team wants to work on and they can work on. So we have, in the Russian university team, for example, we have a core team of 5, then we have 2 visiting researchers, then we have a network of associate fellows who are affiliated with the institute, but they're not, you know, salaried members of staff. And so they together cover a very, you know, quite broad range of areas and topics related to the region. And so any research project that we run would be led by one of those people. So we have, you know, we make sure that we have the core. If we do a research project, we make sure that it, you know, it's something we have core expertise on in the house. And of course, we, you know, will interview other people, and you know, sometimes our researchers co-write or involve a, you know, a relevant expert in the project, but the core kind of is always residing with the team. In terms of convening, and this is, again, this is where visibility comes in. It's a combination of things. Like, you know, there's, you know, before COVID, there's a lot of meeting happened because someone was visiting London, and they got in touch and said, "Oh, I'm visiting London. Would you like me to present on something, or would you like to meet and just, you know, compare notes?" So there's one source. Then the researchers' personal networks are another source, where, you know, they meet people in the region during their research, and they say, "Oh, this is actually, you know, a really knowledgeable expert, and we should bring them, and we should organize an event around their research." Great idea. And then there's another thing whereby, for example, we organize an event on a topic, and when we plan the event, we say, okay, we should have an expert on this, we should have an expert on that, we should have an expert on that. But how do we find them? So I always ask your team if they know anyone, and then if they don't, then, you know, an old-fashioned Google search. So that's why it's so important to actually have online presence and have a portfolio of work visible, to kind of make yourself easy to find. So it's a mixture of things.
Thank you very much. And we have another question from Gulnoza. So she asks, does your research inform the decisions of the governments? Your microphone is off.
Yeah, yeah, I was just squinting to read it. Okay, I mean, as I said, no one's going to say openly if our research influenced their decision. It's not like, you know, a minister is going to come out and say, you know, the Chatham House report says that, so I'm doing it. I mean, that would be marvelous, but that's just not what happens. Well, we have had examples whereby, you know, whereby most recently on our work in Ukraine has influenced what the EU advisory group has implemented. So they looked at, I think, it was some sort of business regulations. I can find you the example, but they have taken it into consideration. Or, for example, there was an advice to focus on, a lot of my examples are on Ukraine, of to focus on preventative measures rather than punishment when it comes to corruption. So to fund initiatives that support transparent procurement, for example. So there's the influence comes in if you're called on to consult, so to say. So if you're called on to do a briefing on to brief an incoming ambassador, or to brief the Foreign Office, or the Department of Defense, or whatever, about an area because they're interested in your opinion. So having the opportunity to feed into their decision making, that's the influence. It's not dictating things. What would you recommend to be more influential? Yeah, again, I mean, to be more influential, to me, influence is all about trust. So it's about having a channel of communication, but you have to be a trusted interlocutor. So people actually have to trust what you say, and that comes back to in our sector. That comes back to knowledge and to being able to prove that your ideas are backed by research and you really know your topic inside out, and you can produce a very nuanced argument. And if you're advocating for preventing corruption rather than punishing corruption, that is informed by a lot of research that you've done, and you can prove that punishing corruption was a bad idea because XYZ, whereas preventing it worked really well because ABC worked really well. So just having that credibility is going to be an important first step, and then trying to open a channel of communication. So that's being willing to have an open conversation when an open conversation is called for. I hope that helps.
I have one question. Can I ask? For example, you have a pool of research initiatives, for example, and you need to make a decision which research project should be implemented or should be not approved by council or board of Chatham House. And do you have any long-term agendas in some regions, for example in Central Asia, based on which you can make some decisions or criteria what kind of projects could be implemented or not, what are interests for you or not? Thank you.
Okay, so what we work on, I mean, as I said, it depends on several factors, the people we have and what they say the priorities should be. So if one of the colleagues who work on Central Asia says, oh, we should really focus on water resources in Central Asia, then I would want to know, okay, that's great. So why is it important? Why is it important now? And who are the interested parties? Who does this affect? So who should be interested in what is the problem? Who should be interested in resolving it? And based on that, we can talk about, okay, what form the project should take, how large a scale it should be, and how do we get it funded? So it's always going to be a mixture of things. For example, the urgency will influence the scale and what you're planning to do, because if the important thing is to say something right now about something that happened last week, then it's better to say it right now, and maybe write a short op-ed, and that's the end of it. Whereas if the priority is to actually look into something in real depth, do a lot of field work, gather a lot of data on it, then what you want to do is to really build a project, and that then comes with funding requirements. So then you want to go out to potential funders and fundraise. So it's not a rigid process, and it's not something, oh, we say we do this, so this is what we're going to do next year. I mean, it will depend on how things develop, because sometimes you may be trying to, you may invest a lot of effort in trying to get a project off the ground, and it just, you know, the interest is not there. People have other priorities, funders have other priorities, and it doesn't always happen the way we want it to. So it always, I would say, it's always good to get feedback. I mean, I don't know, for example, how your funding structure works, but it's always good to get feedback from the people you think might be interested in it. So if you want to go, if you want to go and ask for funding, then maybe have some conversations with potential funders on, you know, would this be of interest? If your aim is to, I don't know, produce a study that would be useful for the government on educational policy, then, you know, I would say maybe ask what their interests are. Would they be interested in something like this? So just try and get some feedback in the early stages, and that can tell you a lot about, is it a viable project? Are people interested in it? And maybe the topic is viable, but maybe the focus should be shifted slightly, I don't know, 20 degrees to the right, and include another area and drop one, you know? So I would just say get the early feedback, and that can help you prioritize on what there is interest in. Because if you want influence, then people actually need to know, you know, be hungry for the knowledge.
Dear friends, any questions?
I have another one. I wanted to ask about the our region, Central Asia, since we all come from these countries. Are the researchers about Central Asia kind of in demand in think tanks and the organizations like yours, or it comes more of a under the like post-Soviet countries or like CIS countries? How it works, and is it in demand or any interest in this region? I hope it's clear.
Yes, so you're asking whether research on Central Asia is in demand, yes? Yeah. I mean, yes, it is. But as with everything in our region, this is not just Central Asia, by the way. It's true for everything. The demands goes up and down, depends on what's going on in the world. So, for example, now everyone wants to know about Belarus. And I can tell you that in the past 9 years that I've been with the Institute, this is the first time that there's such a high interest in Belarus because of what's going on. So people, you know, have been ignoring it for a long time, and now suddenly everyone's surprised. So the researchers who have been following it are not surprised, but the wider audiences. So yes, there is always a kind of a certain level of demand for knowledge on Central Asia. And there are certain, you know, there are organizations and businesses that follow the region because they have interests there, and that's your base level. And there are, you know, there are several of those in the UK, which is our core constituency, if you like. Although we gradually interact with, you know, more and more international audiences, but the interest peaks that goes up every time something happens in the region. So, for example, when President Nazarbayev resigned, definitely the interest went up, and we've had, you know, lots of questions from the media about what this means. So, yeah, there are fluctuations, shall we say? So there's always a, you know, I mean, in our team we're always interested in you know, following the region. We want to kind of keep pushing it and keep keeping it in the conversation, but it's not the amount of general interest is not always the same. And for example, we have been trying to get a research fellowship funded for a researcher from a Central Asian country to kind of to do a visiting fellowship at Chatham House, and it's just something we've been trying for years. And we haven't been successful, unfortunately, but it's something we keep pursuing because we think it's really important to have someone from the region at pursuing a research project with us and being part of our work on a regular basis, not just through, you know, a couple of events per year. So yes, I mean, as with everything, yes, there is interest, there's a certain base level, it goes up when something happens in the region. And it goes down when there are other priorities. Cooperation with think tanks, okay. We are in touch with many think tanks from the region. We don't tend to have formal partnerships because it's just, I mean, we tend to kind of partner on a specific thing. So if, for example, if we do an event in the region, which we haven't done any for quite a while, but we, you know, when that happens, then of course we have, you know, a formal partner to help organize that. But in general, yes, we stay in touch, and we do our best to kind of invite people from the region to participate in events, and not just for, you know, not just for Central Asian states, but, you know, for the entire region we cover. So yeah, we work very hard to maintain contact, and we're always really delighted when someone gets in touch and wants to talk. Opportunities to publish or participate in events. So participating in events, that's easy. I mean, all of them are happening online. There's no way around it. So yes, there is generally, there are quite a few events that might be of interest. And I'm gonna drop my email into the chat box, and feel free to get in touch, and we'd be very happy to get you signed up on our events mailing list. And I would say this is generally the case for most organizations, not just Chatham House. That if you're interested in tuning in for their events, then you just write to the organizer, say who you are, why you're interested, and you know, in 90% of the cases, it's going to be fine. And that's, you know, that's what you should use this time for, to kind of try and get into those events as they happen online. Usually what people want to know, I mean, for example, if it's a smaller research gathering, and it's not openly broadcast or whatever, then yes, people want to know who's in the room. So that's why it's important to actually say who you are and what your background is when you're introducing yourself. To build that trust. But in general, yes, everyone wants to have informed people in the room, and getting someone from the region who can contribute is always really helpful. So yes, please do get in touch, not just with us, but whichever institution you're interested in. Is there any opportunity to publish? Okay, so in terms of publications, we for expert comments, the stuff we publish on our website, the short outlets, the short outputs, those are written by our own researchers. But for larger research pieces, as I said, we do collaborate and we do co-write. So yes, there is an opportunity, but the researchers who publish tends to have a little bit of a track record already in published research. But that's why I say it's very important to join the events and kind of make your mark, and make yourself visible, and get people to read your stuff. And that's the best way of finding maybe a co-writer, or learning what research project might be of interest. Then we have a magazine called The World Today, which is more of a general interest magazine, but they do publish on Central Asia as well. So that's another potential avenue. And I know they commission pieces externally. If you're more into academic writing, then our in-house journal is called International Affairs. That's specifically an academic journal. So they have an open process whereby you submit an article, it goes to a review, and it's assessed for publication. So there are multiple outlets, but I would just say you want to have a little bit of a publication track record first. So maybe try, once you have a portfolio, it's much easier for people to assess your publication potential. And also I would say, just, obviously feel free to get in touch with me or with other colleagues if you have an idea for writing. And what we can do is, if it's something that fits with what we publish in terms of the topics or the focus or the target audience, then we're always happy to talk. And if it's not, then we can at least give you some advice on where else that could go, because maybe another outlet would be a better fit for it. There are, there's the conversation, which is more of an academic short output platform. There's open democracy. So there is a variety of outlets.
So dear Lubsa, thank you very much. Unfortunately, the time of this session is coming to an end. Thank you very much for such an interesting presentation on the activities of the Chatham House, one of the oldest and advanced think tanks in the world. I think our listeners received lots of useful information, and I hope that in the long term, the Chatham House will have a project in Central Asia and in the near future, and the participants of the Cabar.asia School of Analytics could will be able to take part in this possible project. And thank you for such an extended lecture. And if you have any comments or suggestions, then please go ahead.
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for staying, not dropping out. It was really, really nice and really interesting questions. So thank you. I hope it was useful. As I said, I dropped my email into the chat box. So if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch. I also wanted to say, because I heard from several of you that you're interested in gender relations and so gender politics. And I think one of you Russell said that he's interested in Russian and Japanese relations. So we have a couple of events. We have an event on gender issues in Central Asia this afternoon, which is going to be an evening for you. But if that's of interest, you're very welcome to join. You just need to do the Zoom registration. So again, drop me a line. And we have another one coming up on Russia-Japan relations, I think in November. So keep an eye on our website and you're very welcome to join. And so as I said, please do get in touch. We are very interested in hearing from you, not just myself, but everyone in the team. And we do hope to do more on Central Asia. And we're always interested in in hearing from up and coming analysts, just like yourself. So please don't be shy. Okay, I know things are not immediately possible, but do please stay in touch. And we're always very happy to hear from you. And I hope you'll follow our work, and I hope to hear more from you in the future. And thank you again to Jamilia for organizing this session, and thank you to the interpreter for bearing with me. I know it's not always easy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ljubica. It was very nice to listen to you. I think thank you very much for the email as well. I will make a short announcement of the tonight's Chatham House event as well, because Anna sent me the direct Zoom link, and if anyone is interested, I will just send out the registration link to them as well. Thank you very much for joining us.
Great. Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you. Goodbye.